Australia, a continent isolated for millennia, boasted a unique ecosystem, unlike any other on Earth. Its flora and fauna evolved in splendid isolation, creating a delicate balance that thrived in the absence of outside influences. Kangaroos bounded across vast plains, their powerful legs propelling them effortlessly over the rugged terrain. These iconic marsupials were perfectly adapted to the Australian environment, a testament to the continent's unique evolutionary path. Koalas clung to eucalyptus trees, munching on leaves that provided both sustenance and shelter. These gentle creatures, with their slow, deliberate movements, were an integral part of the Australian landscape. The land, though often harsh and arid, existed in a delicate balance. The arid outback, with its sparse vegetation, was home to a myriad of species that had adapted to survive in such extreme conditions. When Europeans arrived in the late 18th century, they saw a land ripe for the taking, a blank canvas on which to paint their dreams of prosperity. They were eager to transform this new world into a reflection of their homeland. They brought with them familiar animals, sheep for wool, cattle for beef, horses for transport. These animals, so common in Europe, were introduced to the Australian landscape with little thought to the potential consequences. These introductions, intended to tame the wild land, would have unforeseen and devastating consequences. The European settlers were unaware of the delicate balance they were disrupting. Little did they know, their actions would unleash an ecological disaster. The introduction of non-native species would set off a chain reaction, altering the landscape in ways they could never have imagined. The arrival of the rabbit, an animal seemingly innocuous, would forever alter the Australian landscape. What began as a small population quickly exploded, as the rabbits found an environment with few natural predators and abundant food. It would become a tale of unintended consequences, a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of nature and the devastating impact of human actions on the environment. The lush landscapes began to wither, replaced by barren, overgrazed land. This is the story of the rabbit invasion of Australia, a cautionary tale of how a single species can disrupt an entire ecosystem, leading to widespread environmental destruction and a struggle for restoration that continues to this day. In 1788, the First Fleet arrived in Botany Bay, carrying with it the seeds of a silent invasion. This fleet, a convoy of 11 ships, brought convicts, marines and supplies to establish a penal colony in New South Wales. But among the human cargo and essential goods, there were also unintended stowaways that would forever alter the Australian landscape. Among the passengers was a man named Thomas Austin, a wealthy settler with a penchant for hunting. Austin, who had a deep love for the English countryside, longed to recreate a piece of his homeland in the vast, untamed wilderness of Australia. His vision included the familiar sight of rabbits darting through the fields, a common game animal in England. Yearning for the familiar comforts of home, Austin arranged for the importation of 24 wild rabbits from England. These rabbits, packed in wooden crates, made the long and arduous journey across the seas, arriving in Australia with little fanfare but with significant future impact. He released them onto his property in Victoria, intending to establish a population for sport. Austin's estate, a sprawling piece of land, seemed the perfect place for his hunting endeavors. He envisioned leisurely hunts and an abundant supply of game, never imagining the far-reaching consequences of his actions. Austin, like many of his contemporaries, underestimated the resilience of these creatures in a foreign land. The rabbits, finding the Australian environment to their liking, began to breed rapidly. The mild climate and lack of natural predators created ideal conditions for their population to explode. He believed the rabbits would be confined to his estate, providing him with a ready source of game. However, the rabbits had other plans. They quickly spread beyond the boundaries of Austin's property, venturing into neighboring lands and beyond. He failed to grasp the fundamental principle that governs introduced species. In the absence of natural predators, they can multiply unchecked, with devastating consequences for the ecosystem they invade. The rabbits began to overgraze the land, stripping it of vegetation and causing soil erosion. This tiny invader, introduced with the best of intentions, would become one of Australia's most notorious pests, forever changing the landscape and ecology of the continent. Austin's 24 rabbits, met with ideal conditions in Australia, multiplied at an alarming rate. The continent's temperate climate, coupled with vast areas of sparsely populated land and a lack of natural predators, created a perfect storm for the rabbits to thrive. Within a few short years, the rabbits had spread beyond Austin's estate, their numbers exploding exponentially. By 1860, a mere 6 decades after their introduction, rabbits had colonized an area twice the size of their native Europe. The speed of their spread was astounding, with reports of farmers witnessing waves of rabbits advancing across the landscape, devouring everything in their path. The invasion had begun, and it would prove far more challenging to control than anyone had anticipated. As the rabbit population exploded, so too did the alarm among Australia's fledgling agricultural communities. Farmers, witnessing their grazing pastures decimated by hordes of rabbits, recognized the threat these creatures posed to their livelihoods. Initial attempts to control the burgeoning rabbit population proved woefully inadequate. Hunting parties were organized, but they could not keep pace with the rabbits' extraordinary reproductive rate. Fences were erected, only to be burrowed under or bypassed by the relentless advance of the furry invaders. The rabbits, it seemed, were winning the war for Australia. The ecological repercussions of the rabbit invasion were profound and far-reaching. As the rabbits stripped the land bare, native plant species unable to compete with the relentless grazers began to disappear. This loss of vegetation led to widespread soil erosion, leaving the land vulnerable to drought and desertification. The decline of native flora had a ripple effect throughout the entire ecosystem. Native animals dependent on these plants for food and shelter saw their populations dwindle. Competition for resources intensified, pushing some species to the brink of extinction. The delicate balance of the Australian ecosystem was in disarray. Section 6. A Nation Under Siege, the Agricultural Fallout. The rabbit invasion wasn't just an ecological disaster, it was an economic one as well. As rabbit numbers soared, agricultural yields plummeted. Sheep and cattle, deprived of grazing land, perished or produced less wool and meat. Farmers, already struggling in the harsh Australian climate, faced financial ruin. The Australian government, recognizing the severity of the crisis, poured resources into finding a solution. Bounties were offered for rabbit carcasses, encouraging mass culls. However, the rabbit's rapid breeding cycle outpaced even the most determined efforts. The nation was under siege, and the enemy was a seemingly unstoppable army of fluffy herbivores. Section 7. Desperate Measures. The War on Rabbits Escalates. As the 20th century dawned, Australia's war on rabbits intensified. Desperate for a solution, authorities turned to increasingly drastic measures. Thousands of kilometers of fences were erected across the continent in a futile attempt to contain the spread. Poisoning campaigns using increasingly potent toxins were implemented, with devastating consequences for native wildlife. In the 1950s, a biological weapon was unleashed, the myxoma virus. This virus, spread through mosquito bites, proved initially effective, decimating rabbit populations. However, the rabbits, displaying their remarkable resilience, developed a resistance to the virus, and their numbers rebounded. The war on rabbits had become a seemingly unwinnable battle, a testament to the unintended consequences of human actions. Section 8. Living with the Legacy, a Problem Unresolved. Today, the rabbit remains a significant pest in Australia. While their numbers have been brought under control in some areas, they continue to pose a significant threat to agriculture and the environment. The legacy of the rabbit invasion is a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of ecosystems and the importance of careful management of introduced species. The rabbit invasion transformed Australia's landscape, leaving an indelible mark on its ecology and economy. It forced Australians to confront the consequences of their actions and adapt their farming practices in response to the relentless pressure of this introduced species. Section 9. Rabbits and the Land Lessons Learned in the Outback. The rabbit invasion of Australia serves as a cautionary tale about the hubris of humanity's desire to control nature. Introduced in the 18th century for hunting purposes, these rabbits quickly multiplied, overwhelming the landscape and causing widespread ecological damage. It underscores the importance of understanding the delicate balance of ecosystems and the potential for unintended consequences when that balance is disrupted. The rabbits devoured native vegetation, leading to soil erosion and the displacement of native species, which had evolved over millennia to thrive in this unique environment. The The rabbits, brought to Australia with the best of intentions, became a symbol of the unforeseen ramifications of human actions on the environment. Farmers and landowners struggled to control the burgeoning population, employing various methods from hunting to building extensive rabbit-proof fences. Yet the problem persisted. The story of the rabbit invasion is not just a tale of ecological disaster. It is a testament to the resilience of nature and the ability of life to adapt, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. Over time, concerted conservation efforts and natural predators have helped to restore some balance, allowing native flora and fauna to make a slow but steady comeback. It is a story that continues to unfold today, reminding us that the choices we make have lasting impacts on the world around us. As we look to the future, the lessons learned from the rabbit invasion of Australia serve as a powerful reminder of the need for thoughtful stewardship of our natural world.